Imagine you're 48 years old. You're told the man whom you've known as your father your entire life may not be your father, that it might be a Catholic priest whom you've never met and who passed away.
That is what Jim Graham was told almost 25 years ago, and it triggered a search by Graham to learn everything he could about that priest, Father Thomas Sullivan. That's where investigative reporter Steve Brown picks up the story in Seeking a Confession, a Channel 2 News original investigation.
Your only begotten Son.
We know that Father Thomas Sullivan was sent here to Buffalo in 1943, 2 years before Jim Graham was born. Father Sullivan was a missionary priest assigned to the Oblate Mission Center, which still exists today in Buffalo using space at Holy Angels Church on Porter Avenue. Helen Graham was then a married mother with 2 daughters. If she and Father Sullivan had a romantic relationship and produced a child, it would mean Helen violated her marriage vows. Father Sullivan, his vow was celibacy, and that both had broken the 7th commandment.
Obviously, there was a scandal here.
Historian Martin Ederer is a history professor at Buffalo State College.
It was really a very different church at that time, where a lot more was kind of not out in the open.
Given that, how does somebody research a half-century-old secret about themselves with no family help? It turns out that Jim Graham had a couple of things going for him.
He is a successful businessman and today runs a couple of golf-related ventures, including one installing artificial turf at home golf greens. So Jim Graham has had financial resources to sustain the deep dive into his past that has lasted now almost 25 years. He has hired private detectives, acknowledges spending thousands of dollars in his search, but that was later. In the very beginning of his quarter-century-long quest, all he had was that yellowed obit given to him by his uncooperative aunt and uncle.
So I looked at the obituary, and right away just looked at his nose, his eyebrows, his eyes, and I realized that obviously this was my father, and I realized that they knew he was my father.
The resemblance is uncanny, but it's not proof, or at least not the proof Graham was looking for. But aside from the photo, in the print on that obit was Graham's first clue.
I looked at this newsletter, and I saw the address, Tewksbury, Massachusetts, and the newsletter was written by a Father Reddy.
So in his first bit of detective work into his own personal history, Jim Graham found Father Reddy in Tewksbury. That led him to a tip about this place, Immaculate Conception Church in Lowell, Massachusetts. It's the home parish for the Sullivan family, where a young Tom Sullivan attended service before becoming a priest. And that's how it went for Jim Graham for months and years, one tip leading to another.
Eventually, Graham discovered that when he was a toddler, his mother took him and ran away from Buffalo to New York City. Helen Graham found work at the Polyclinic Hospital and lived in the nurses' dormitory. But Jim Graham hit a dead end. He couldn't figure out who or how he was cared for while his mother was working. Graham says in his mother's old address book he found the number for a nun. He won't disclose her name, but says in 1996 he paid her a visit.
I said, "Sister, can you at least tell me where I was? My mother was working in the hospital. Where was I? Who was caring for me?" She said, "Oh, you were in the orphanage. You were in the Foundling Hospital."
The Foundling Hospital still exists, although the orphanage wing was closed decades ago. Nuns there tended to the children and kept very detailed records. 32 pages, all typed, most of them by a Sister Genevieve Mary.
It's 13 months of detailed interviews that the nuns took of my mother every week when she came to pick me up.
Now, the detail in this log is nothing short of amazing, and it hints how Helen Graham and her young son were found out in New York. That story is coming up tomorrow in part 3 of our 6-part series, Seeking a Confession. If you'd like to peek ahead, parts 1 through 3 are available right now on our website, WGRZ.com. Scott Mariellis.
Quite an amazing story. Goes to show the work you can do when you're motivated to be a bit of a sleuth.
Yeah, he's an incredible detective on his own. If he was a reporter, he'd have done an outstanding job just based on the number of things that he was able to uncover to help us tell his story.
Great work, Steve. We'll look forward to the next one. Thank you.